Hello, this is Eric Johnson, the brand.
And Aaron Thigpen, the source.
And welcome to our podcast today, people. We are going to talk about the high school athlete. When is it too late to train? Is it too late when they are freshmen, sophomores? When is it too late for a high school athlete to start their training? If they haven't, Aaron.
Well, and again, you might want to also call this, when is it too late to aspire to the next level? That's probably
true.
That's really what we're saying, and that's what, this really comes down to. You might be talking to the wrong guy because I'm the eternal optimist. Okay?
We both are.
But also, I'm a realist too. And in our business, we're kind of the facilitators or caretakers of people's dreams. And we've got to be realistic with these athletes. And the athletes and the parents need to be realistic with themselves. But what I always say is, you can't position yourself to, be a millionaire and you don't know anything about finances. And you never start saving,
Right.
So I end up having conversations with parents and athletes that I call there is no tomorrow conversations.
Right.
And it's generally this. The athlete all of a sudden decides, maybe they're a sophomore, maybe they're a freshman, that, I want to play college sports.
Right.
But up to that point, they've done little to advance themselves. And generally what I see is an athlete that is behind physically, both just from a foundational and functional aspect. Their skill set is behind in terms of the sport activity that they want to play.
Right.
And their sport IQ can be behind. And then also they're behind in just what I call their method of operation and how they operate as an athlete. And I think that's most important, and that's the biggest thing to turn around, because in high school, that 4 years, you can see a lot of growth.
Right.
Because the athletes' bodies are changing, they're going through puberty, all these things. I've had kids who've come in as freshmen and they're, 100 pounds, 5'3", and leave high school at 6'3", 200 pounds. So physically, those changes can happen. But what I think is the biggest stumbling block is these kids up to that point, one, have not challenged themselves, so they're not used to being challenged. Two, they're not disciplined. So they're not disciplined enough to be able to undertake training on a regular basis. And three, they're not quite willing to make the sacrifices that it takes, because it does take sacrifice to be an elite level athlete, or to be a successful athlete. And those are things that aren't necessarily tied to the physical or technical aspects of being an athlete, but they're tied to the character, they're tied to how they're raised, they're tied to a lot of those things. And those are where the biggest changes need to occur. And I tell parents and athletes, I have a frank conversation. If you can't make those changes, it doesn't matter how good a program I put together for you or how good an instructor EJ is. If you don't have those underlying characteristics in your makeup, it's not going to happen.
It's a mindset, right?
Yeah.
It's a mindset. And I see this with a lot of athletes, that if they're not prepared, you said challenge, discipline, and there's really dedication to really do it, then it's difficult, and you have to have the correct mindset when you walk into a sports performance facility like Game Speed, or you walk back with me and we're going to work on your fundamentals of baseball. The mindset has to be prepared, like you're ready to go for that 30 minutes, hour and 15 minutes or 30 minutes. It should be there, because it's difficult. And when you have maybe a high school player that hasn't dealt with that yet, I think having that frank conversation up front, then it prepares them, and then they can make an evaluation of, do I really want to do this?
Exactly. And that's what the conversation is about. Okay, where do you really want to go? And based on where you're at now, this is how much work you have to put in to get to this level, to get to this level, or to get to this level. And you got to be realistic about the outcomes and really the probability, given the situation that you're in. It's not always, it's a come to Jesus moment for a lot of athletes.
Right. Right.
But I'd hate to see athletes and parents waste time, money, and resources when that athlete can't make that full change to do those things and make those changes about themselves.
Yeah, I think you have to have that frank conversation with them, and I've had it with athletes where I've just said, this is where you want to be. Right. Are you willing to do this for this amount of time to kind of get even or caught up?
Exactly.
Then from there, here's our next roadmap, our next plan. Are you willing to do that? And if you get here, then we need to have this. So we have a plan or a system, especially in hardball athletics. We're always, you and I are talking daily about having plans for each of our athletes so they can be successful, and really having a journal where they log in. It's accountability, Aaron, I feel a lot of times.
Well, I mean, if you go back and look at our podcast library, almost every podcast we talk about has some kind of component that goes into this, whether it's the last one we talked about, intent, whether it's talking about having a plan, where it's talking about managing yourself and your resources. All of these things have to be in place. That's why we talk about them.
Right.
And that's why they're a constant underlying theme for all the things that we put out there for the athletes to, have and learn and use this information. Because if you don't, then you're just out there flailing about. And like I said, you can come in and I can train you, but without intent, without purpose, without structure, without knowing where you're going to go, without knowing where you are on the trajectory of where you're going to be, and being consistent, all things that we talk about all the time, it's not going to happen.
Yeah, it's difficult. It's not going to happen. And as athletes come to us when they're in 9th grade or 10th grade and they say, listen, I seriously want to do this, what do I need to do? We're going to have this conversation with you. But I think the main thing, before you come and wanting to do that, be equipped that it's going to take hard work, and that's easy, and be willing to be open to suggestions that can help you get to that next spot you'd like to be in.
And what I'd like to say to the parents is, before you even walk into building like mine, or you pick up the phone to call EJ, you need to have a frank conversation with their athlete. I mean, look them dead in the eye and say, hey, do you really want this? What are you willing to do?
Right.
And not just you be willing to write a check, but be willing and ready to hold them accountable, and maybe make them earn it. Say, hey, okay, I'm gonna start off, and we're gonna purchase these sorts of lessons from you. Mm-hmm. And if you can follow through on these things, then we're gonna take it to the next level. But I hate to see parents who are thousands of dollars down the line, and the kid doesn't do the homework.
Right.
Kid doesn't do the training that's prescribed for them to do. They have a punch the clock mentality, and all of these things that really, again, just a waste of time. I always tell people, you know what? Save the money and put in their college fund.
Absolutely, right.
It's a better investment that way than carry on some charade about, hey, I want to be a college baseball athlete, or I want to be a college football athlete, and they're not doing the work.
Right. And that's so true. And you couldn't have said it any better with that. It's true, Aaron. Why waste time, money, and energy?
So
I think it's good. It's a great topic. We need to really, bring to the attention to an athlete. Remember, people, you can follow us on Facebook, our Hardball Athletics page. You can follow us on Instagram, and also on Twitter. So we look forward to hearing from you again. Please tune into our Hardball Athletic broadcast here, our podcast. Again, this is Eric Johnson, the brand.
And Aaron Thigpen, the source. See you later.